everybody, it's Melissa from White Castle with Books, and this is my February wrap-up. I completed 6 books in February, which I was really happy with. I am trying to read at least 52 books this year, and I'm just keeping it an average of 1 book per week. So that got me ahead of schedule, so that's really nice because I'm sure I'll have weeks where I just flop and I don't get it in. So the first book that I finished was Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and I listened to that audiobook and I really enjoyed that book. Just the magic systems that Brandon Sanderson comes up with are always so unique and enjoyable to listen to. Basically, it's just about 2 sisters that end up kind of switching roles. Originally, the older sister was going to be the wife of the Lord Ruler, and they end up sending the younger sister instead. But through this journey, they both learn a lot, and they both end up contributing to the positive outcome at the end of the book. And I just really enjoyed it. It was a pleasant read. I always love listening to Brandon Sanderson books, especially when they're read by Michael Kramer, so I would highly recommend it, and I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I actually listened to The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and I also really enjoyed this book. I consider it to be a self-help book. It talks all about how we can form habits, and we can have really positive habits or we can have really negative habits, and then it talks about the ways we can change negative habits and just creating the habit loop so that we can control the habits that we end up continuing with on a daily basis. And I really enjoyed this book as well, and I also gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Hired Girl by Laura Amy Schultz, and I have a review on this book, so I'm not really going to talk about it a lot, but I enjoyed this book immensely. I really couldn't put it down. I just wanted to find out what happened to Joan in the book and to see where she would go on her personal journey escaping from her father's farm and then going to work as a maid for a Jewish family. So it was a really enjoyable book, and I once again gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read A Face in the Shadows by Susan Evans McLeod. This book it's a historical novel that has a lot of romance in it, and I really enjoyed it. I love her writing. It's just kind of basically like a candy read. It's not deep, but it's very enjoyable and very emotion driven. She writes human emotions just so well and so relatable. So I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I listened to The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first book in the second era for his Mistborn series, and I had already listened to this book once, but I needed to kind of catch up on it, so I listened to it a second time, and it was very enjoyable. I love the 2 main characters, Wax and Wayne. Wayne just cracks me up. He is so comical, but I also love his abilities, and the magic system, of course, is incredible. So it's extremely fun to listen to it because it's also read by Michael Kramer, who is amazing. And it basically follows Wax and Wayne through their journey as they come back to a big city that Wax used to live in when he was younger, and then they both were out in the roughs for a long time, and they come to this city and they find that it is just as full of crime as the roughs were, and so they kind of get caught up in helping with all of the crime. They end up helping to hunt down a criminal called Miles 100 Lives, and it's just very ripping and very intriguing, and there's also a teeny tiny bit of romance, but there's really not a lot of romance in this book. So it was very action-packed, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. And last but not least, I also read/listened to Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the second era of the Mistborn series. It's the second of the second trilogy. Yeah. I didn't like this book as much as The Alloy of Law. I do see why he wrote it, and I see why it helps a lot with Wax's character arc, but it was not my favorite of the books, and so I'm kind of really excited to read the third one just to kind of lift some of what this book sort of set on me. But I also rated it a 5 out of 5 stars because I feel like it was really well written and there was a purpose for the book. Just for me personally, I struggled with some of the things that happened, but overall I just appreciated it anyway. So 5 out of 5 stars. So just to give my statistics for my reading month of February, I finished listening to Warbreaker even though I hadn't read the whole thing in February. So the page count is just a little bit off because of that for the amount of pages that I actually read listened to. I read a total of 6 books with a total of 2,242 pages. I did not DNF any of the books that I started. I rated all of the books that I read 5 out of 5 stars. And there were 3 fantasy books, 2 historical fiction, and then 1 self-help. So yeah, that's my wrap up for February. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumb up. I would really appreciate it. And subscribe to my channel for more videos. And as always, I will see you in my next video.